track, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome back to the American Muscle Series on Slow Motion Broadcasting. JR Gregory here with you on the call alongside my partner Joshua Wilkie, who's handling both comms and cams tonight, and with landmarks like the Minter Straight, Westfield, Sheen Curve, Sterling's, Clark Curve, Brabham Straight, Graham Hill, and Druids. You know that we're racing in the UK, and tonight's round 2 will be contested at the iconic Brands Hatch circuit. Today we are approaching the 100-year anniversary of racing here in the British countryside, which actually began with runners and bicycles racing on a dirt track carved into a hilly landscape, soon to be followed by motorcycles and then, of course, cars. And as the track has developed, it has played host to F1, F2, F3, F5000, Champ Car, yeah, that's American Champ Cars out here, World Touring Cars, Superbikes, and many others. This track is currently host to the British Touring Car Championship, Porsche Carrera Cup, the British GT Championship, just to name a few. Today's configuration, a short 2.5 miles, 4 clicks, 9 corners. Current record was a 1:12.276 set in 2009 by an A1 GP car back when the I don't know, named racing series after steak sauce. But Josh, when I look at the elevation changes around here, the diabolical camber of some of these corners, and then I look at these Mustangs lined up in pit lane, I think one thing, and that is drifting.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite the mix of track and car here for sure today on AMS. It's going to be a pretty interesting one around Brands Hatch. This is a really hustly kind of old school, fast sports car track, kind of one that they probably wouldn't make anymore. And they probably, yeah, they just wouldn't make one of these anymore, I don't think, quite like this. And it's very unique. Like you said, there's some camber out there. There's a bunch of gravel on the side of the road, as you saw, that we're probably going to see in a few corners. Going to be an issue tonight. There are some track limits around here that you need to play with, some curbs, some undulation. T1, always very interesting, at least for me around here, trying to get that braking point just right as the track falls away from you and kind of looking for grip. So it's going to be a pretty interesting one, I think. Not a whole lot of drafting around here either. Maybe a little down this front straight, but other than that, you really got to fight the track around here as well. So I think we're going to have a good one, JR.
Yeah, and fighting the track and fighting this car. And I'll tell you, the track map, overhead map, it really looks like nothing. But once you get out here with these elevation changes and some of the camber difficulties that we spoke about, very, very difficult track. I have got a gazillion laps out here, and it is so difficult to find the correct line around some of these corners. You have to be so precise. And these cars, not a ton of horsepower, only 325 horsepower. So it's not a car that has the power to make up for over-slowing. It almost becomes a momentum car on some of these medium speed corners. So I think over-slowing is going to be a big thing here. And conversely, I think overcooking some entries could also get some people in trouble here. Putting down the power out of some of the slow stuff, as we saw last week too, can be a handful in these cars. So it is going to be interesting. And unlike last week, folks, we got one 40-minute race, and if you were with us last week at Imola, you saw some of these drivers struggling with tires, particularly rears down the stretch, and that was only after a 20-minute race. So tires are 100% going to play a role here. And on that note, shout out to Matt Malone, who we saw conserve his tires so that he could light the wick down the stretch. Matt showing some racecraft there and moved up. I think he managed to push his way onto the podium by the end of the second sprint. So tire management definitely going to be a thing here. And I'll tell you, practice time is going to be a thing here too, Josh. I think the drivers who have spent the time to learn all the nuances of this track are going to be at the front, and people who have not put the time in to get ready for this one are going to be exposed, and we're going to see some cars get lapped before this one's over.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there for sure. Finding the nuances of this track. You don't want to be out there, let's say, looking for time during the race. You want to have this track pretty down pat by the time you're out there racing it, or it's going to be pretty difficult. If you haven't found those track limits that we just saw Matt Malone find on the right-hand side there, just how far you can get into that sort of graded, grassy area, and how, when you can put the power down and where and so on by now, then you're going to have a really hard time out there trying to figure it out during the race, because it is going to get narrow, it is going to get pretty hustly and close quarters, and you don't want to be thinking about where your brake point is and where to accelerate. Then you want to kind of have that all behind you as we're kind of on board here, just seeing how undulating and difficult this is. Difficult corner here, this one. Lots of curb on entry and on exit, and you need to get it just right. It almost looks like a bit of a wide corner, but when you get right down to it, there's really only one line through a bunch of these. Really easy spot there. Matt Malone really playing with the outside of the track, and he's going to find the wall on that one.
Oh, just a bit outside right there. And you're so right about those track limits. They have some portions of the racing surface out here kind of disguised as grass, but it's bricks outside the white lines, painted green. They are absolutely part of the racing surface. You saw Malone there, particularly Graham Hill Bend, 4 wheels off the track outside the white lines, and that is the racing line. If you're not driving out there, you're absolutely going to get smoked out here. And as I said, the folks who showed up here without putting the time in to learn the track limits particularly are going to be exposed. They're going to be exposed in a hurry. But looking at our qualifying right now, last week's winner, Kevin Parrish, sitting pretty comfortably. He's got a full half-second gap on P2 Blount, and you see Barrios hanging around there as well. Kemp and Wolf rounding out the top 5 in the pros and in the challenge. Matt Thompson, who put in a great race last time. I think he came in first place in both of those sprints at Imola. So it's Thompson from Powell, from Cone, from Kennedy, from Weaver in the challenge class. And we'll have to scroll down a little bit to see the M's. You see Andy Bell right there running in P25, first place so far in the amateur class. But yeah, really looking forward to this one, and really excited here at Slow Motion Broadcasting to be back with the American Muscle Series. I am definitely very green at these cars and calling these events, but had a blast last week and have been looking forward to Brands Hatch ever since I saw it on the schedule. And speaking of the schedule, this is not the only great track that we're going to visit. We have Mosport, the Red Bull Ring, Homestead, Miami, Bathurst. Circle that one, and if you want to pick up some Mustang parts, you might want to hang around the Dipper during that race. Then we have Road America, Summit, Willow, Silverstone, and the season finale, Nord's DLN. Yeah, that's the Nordschleife combined, and that is another place that might see some Ford Racing custom parts flying over the barrier. So I'm expecting a lot of action. That is a great schedule, and it is really fun to watch these cars. They are a handful. They handle in a very kind of specific and unique way among the offerings here on iRacing, and they have a great fan base. And if you're just joining us for the first time, you're going to see some racing action that shows you why people are so loyal to these what are now legacy cars on the iRacing service.
Yeah, absolutely. Not an easy car to drive out there for sure. And that actually brings us to a pretty good segue to one of our sponsors here, D-Nut Stuff. We got a quick commercial to get to here just before we get her going here. So we're going to drop to a quick D-Nut Stuff commercial here for you, and we'll be right back.
Is the brake on your new pedal set not meeting your expectations? If so, let D-Nut Stuff transform your braking experience. D-Nut Stuff has brake mods for Thrustmaster TLCMs, Husingveld Sprints, Mosa SRPs, Fanatec CSL Elite V1 and V2s, SimJack Pros, and UT sets. We are always working on adding new pedal sets and more, so check back often.
Alrighty, that's a quick
qualifying
go
now.
for it there, bud.
Qualifying now concluded. We're going to try to get this grid up for you with a little bit of a caveat. We got 38 cars on the grid. I'll try to fly through it as quickly as possible. It's Parrish next to Blount in row 1, then Barrios next to Neil Kemp, Wolf Alliant next to Schnackle in 5 and 6. Then it's Fench next to Thompson, Malone next to Zweyer, and Levi Powell next to Jay Bast in row 6. Then it's Sacchetti next to Mark Cohn, and our first challenger actually, then David Fernandez. Brian Kennedy will line up next to him in P2 challenge. Bailey next to Freddie Weaver. Look at all those challenge cars on the right side there. Royce will line up next to Galbadon there in 19 and 20. Labano next to Brandon Smith. Dan Ott will line up next to Mike Nickham. That is row 12. And get a
Coming
quick
right up. Whoop.
Scrollio there.
Graphics are not playing ball with us here today. Let's try again. Having a bit of SDK problems today there. Sorry, everyone. Let's see if
There
we
we
can get back
go.
on
And there's Andy Bell, our first AMO lineup next to Gazenda. Bray next to Berg. Sacinelli next to Jeff Andrus. Blair next to P2 in AMS. That's Olsen. Then Brooks next to Kosick. Lesnar next to John Casey. And in the last row will be Tom Wendt next to Merle Eschman. The last 6 cars there in the amateur class. And looking up and down the list here, Matt Thompson has done well. He's got a number of pros behind him. Levi Powell, Mark Cohn sitting in P3. I know he wants to put his experience at Imola behind him as he starts in the podium position in the challenge class. So somehow we got through that whole grid, and we are underway. That is Parrish on the inside is going to have the advantage going into turn one. Looks like Barrios and Ballant going side by side. Barrios is going to sneak through there. Always action here in turn one. Very difficult, bad camber, and the track falling away from you. We were talking about this, so you heard Josh talk about it at the beginning. Very tough to find your braking point, not over slow, and get the car rotated down that hill. But great start so far. Way cleaner, Josh, than I thought we were going to see here at Brands.
Yeah, always great starts here with AMS. Always surprising me, or it's always awesome to see how well these guys can drive around each other here on such a tight track. We got a little bit of an incident in the back there, somebody getting turned, but man, getting through those first few sections I mean, we may have spoke a little too soon as another Harley Davidson liveried machine there pointing towards the wall, but other than that, honestly, 38 cars through those corners as cleanly as we just saw it is great. Kevin Parrish getting off to a awesome start here, pretty nose to tail in about the first 10, 11, 12 cars, and then we kind of start to get a little bit more racy as we get farther back in the pack here. A couple side-by-side racers looking like perhaps Dan Ott there, maybe Labano on the outside getting that one done, but yeah, real clean for 38 cars getting through those first parts. We'll try to get back and get some of those replays of the off tracks when we can.
Yeah, and I'll tell you mentioned the narrow track, and you really have to pick your battles here. You might see a door open and be tempted to go side by side, but a couple corners in a row side by side is going to kill your speed so much. The gap in front of you is just going to become insurmountable. So really going to have to, qualifying so important here, these drivers are going to have to really pick their battles, and I don't know, if I was out here, I would probably be leaning more towards just keeping it clean and capitalizing on mistakes. Let something come to me. Not sure you want to do a lot of fighting, especially with the tire wear situation that we saw in only 20 minutes at Imola. These tires are going to be begging for mercy by the time 40 minutes are done out here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, sometimes we do see a driver or two, as Matt Malone's going to take a look up the inside here and pretty easily he's pretty easily going to get that one done. Doesn't really have the optimal line coming out of the corner there, though, so there's going to be a drag race. You can see all the rocks just dancing on the road there, what that must sound like in the cockpit, hitting rocks going that quickly. Maybe a little bit silly bouncing all over the track quite so much there, but pretty cool effect when you're inside the car these days to actually hear that happening. But yeah, definitely a narrow one out here. Not going to be easy to keep it on the track the whole time and keep those tires cool. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody decided to take a front tire or two by the end of a race here, but every once in a while we see it. Not sure if it'll happen around here.
Yeah, these left side tires definitely under a lot of load out here. But yeah, here's a little bit of side by side, and gosh, it is amazing to see the car control and see the trust out here in some of these areas. This track screams precision, and it may not look like it, but after you've had a couple laps out here, you come to realize that you're really threading the needle in a lot of these corners. Oh my goodness! And there is somebody going off. That must have been Ott getting a little loose there, and he is the first of many people who are going to be wiggling that ass on those Mustangs, trying to keep them on the track under power. And Ott, that actually ought to have been a lot worse than it was. Ott getting back on the track in P27, only having lost 4 there, Josh.
The nice Budweiser livery too. Just a bit of a tank slapper, right? He's trying to get on the power there in a bit of a maybe strange orientation and lost the rear a bit of a counter steer into it, and then unfortunately off the road, and then again just tank swapping to get back onto the track. Fairly good rejoin there, though. Didn't really hurt anybody else's race, so that's what we look for when we do make a mistake there. It's more important about how you get back on the track. And then, of course, you're going to flash the tires a bit. After that, you're going to have to be real nice with the car for the next few corners until you can kind of bring them back to temp. And the tires on this car pretty much pizza cutters anyway, so you're not going to have a bit of a hard time on a good day with them. As you definitely don't want to flash them like that. It's going to make your day a little harder. But there's racing all over the track here. Back in 31st place here between Colin Olson. I believe that's Ekman up front and John Casey, who's just getting by Colin here now. So racing everywhere to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not familiar with our graphics up there in your upper left, our SDK timing tower indicates gaps color-coded. The amber is less than half a second. yellow is between 1 second and half a second, and white is intervals greater than 1 second. But if you take a look at that timing tower, it is painted from top to bottom. And these AMS races and these Mustang drivers keep it close, keep it racy. With 5 minutes down, 35 remaining, still pretty well packed together here. And you can see the drivers starting to probe a little bit more, starting to explore their opportunities as their tires get more comfortable underneath them. And great shot here of Ron Wolf taking advantage of those green painted bricks I referenced in the beginning. And this, to me, oh my gosh, this corner right here, Josh, has been a thorn in my side ever since I first stepped foot on Brands Hatch, that Surtees bend. So critical to get a good exit right there, and so hard to get that one right.
Yeah, it really is. Just seems, I don't know, I have the same problem. I can get it every once in a while, but I think it's really just comes down to I have to slow down a lot more than you think, really eye that line and get on the power as early as possible. And it just kind of begs you to try a little more and more into it. And if you overspeed into that, you just kind of ruin the whole thing. And it's a really difficult corner to get right over and over again, for sure. I definitely agree. Probably my least favorite corner on the track. We got some more fighting here between David Blair, John Casey, and Colin again. So still fighting back here in 31st place. This is pretty much the tightest one on track, although there is a few. Matt Thompson up here kind of running away at the moment with the Challenger lead. I believe his closest competitor is about 3 seconds behind him, and Mark Cohn, then Levi Powell just behind them. So there's a pretty good fight for second place back there. But Challenger lead, Matt Thompson again kind of just taking off from the Challenger lead.
Yeah, and some folks making progress. And taking a look at Matt Malone has moved up from P9 to P5 for a +4 for Malone. We just caught him making a pass. He is somebody who doesn't hate Surtees corner the way that Josh and I do. He's getting a good exit there, seen him pull a couple of passes there, and here he is getting it done. And it's all about timing. You can't overcook the entry, and you got to get on the power as soon as possible. And Malone is showing that that might be his favorite corner. And that's the funny thing about some of these corners. You hate them until you get them dimed, and then you're like, oh, I love that corner.
Yeah, I love it when that happens, for sure. I go out there and try to make still a fight back here for 31st. These guys are sweating back here. You wouldn't know that it's for 31st and 32nd place here, that they've been fighting for about 3 laps solid now, side by side. But yeah, that's it's not an easy one around here, for sure. And having to drive this for 40 minutes, think about a pit stop and everything too, something we haven't really talked about too much yet. Practicing pit stops around here, not the easiest pit entry or exit around here either. Things can go very wrong, so you got to think about that while you're out there as well, trying to deal with the track and get that done. And if it was me, I'd probably be up in I'd be up in the top 10 somewhere, and then pit, get the wrong amount of fuel, and then lose the race. That's pretty much how I do it every weekend. So don't ask me about pit stops, but a lot of these guys are much better at pit stops than I am, and I just wonder what they're thinking now. When are they going to pit? Looks like we got a taker already. That might be a little early, I think, though. That could be for a penalty of some kind.
Yeah, and the pit entry here, definitely a trap. You saw that green triangle. We'll look at it again when the leaders start going in, but there's kind of a green triangle demarcating the pit entry from the track. And if you just touch that white line with one tire, it is a brutal, at least a drive-through penalty that can definitely be a race ruiner. So probably smarter to take it a little more chill when that pit entry is staring you in the face. And here we are again looking at Matt Malone, and that is Schnackle all over him, trying to schnack a little bit on Malone, trying to get him back, come out of Surtees up that long Hawthorne Hill. And Hawthorne Bend up here, and Westfield. And no, folks, I don't know these. I'm reading the map to you literally right now, because every corner has a different name of a British driving hero. And my American education has prevented me from learning any of that stuff. But in any event, Schnackle hanging with Malone here, and Malone may be driving his rearview mirror a little bit. He's got almost a 2-second gap up to Ballant. So if Malone wants to get on the podium, he needs to get pedaling here. Although I may be writing him off a little early, of course, very, very early in this one. A full 30 minutes to go here, so we are just getting going here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, absolutely. Long time to go here still. Keeping this pace up for the next 30 minutes, not an easy thing to do. And pretty impressed with Jose Barrios here with his debut to the AMS Series, or at least debut to me anyway, to the AMS Series. He is really holding pace with Kevin Parrish, who was our kind of outstanding driver last year as well. You know, the likes of Taylor Ballant, Matt Malone, Jeff Schnackle up front quite a bit as well. We're missing a few drivers from the top. Fabian Zweyer, another one who was doing very well last season here. But Jose Barrios showing some real speed here and not being intimidated by the drivers around him, using all his tools there as we see him flicking the windshield wipers on. That's when you know that you're in there using absolutely everything you can to move forward. And we saw him using it there, so using every little inch of the track here too. Great shot of the side of Parrish's windshield here, or window.
Yeah, that reminds me of my autocross days when your windshield wipers come on. That meant that you forgot to remove the fuse for the windshield wipers before your run, and your busy hands got into the controls there. But yeah, good point about Barrios. We saw him definitely had pace at Imola last week, but the pace for Barrios last week anyway was a double-edged sword. He was driving the hell out of that Mustang in both of those races, but it appeared that he was overdriving it a little bit. Car got looser and looser as the race went on. Barrios ended up with a couple of offs and didn't really finish consistent with the lap times that he was putting down. So, so far so good here with Barrios. Now, though, as you can see from our timing tower, he is cranking down that gap on Parrish. Got it down to about 2/10. So definitely got something going, and some great camera work here by Josh, who is sharing his insights and producing, which I can't even understand how it's possible. But that is Schnackle looking back at Kemp, Finch, Wolf, and all those cars covered by about 1 second. A little further back, another train between Zweyer and Thompson. So these cars training up a little bit. The slipstream might be kind of sucking them together on a couple of these longer straights, but some great stuff. Pretty much what I was expecting here at Brands Hatch, and what you should expect for the remainder of this AMS series. It has really been fantastic stuff so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does look like we have a meatball from Jay Bast here in the pit with a meatball as we see Tom Wendt coming out. Don't know if that is in connection to anything there. If they got into it together, we'll have to go back and have a look here. Hard to keep up with all the go back to replays when there's so much going on track that we don't want to miss here as well. But yeah, doing both can be a little bit taxing sometimes. The bandwidth can get pulled a little bit. Every once in a while you say something that I totally didn't hear, and I just kind of go off on my own tangent. Hopefully that's not going off too much. I've done a pretty good job over the years of being able to kind of multitask it now. So the cameras are almost second nature, and the talking is kind of the harder part for me now, as I'm sure everyone out there can tell. I'm not exactly up to par with some of our other announcers out here, but I like to fill in every once in a while. Honestly, I have a really good time jumping in on some of these shows with you guys and having some fun. Getting a little word in edgewise every once in a while is great. We're seeing lots of really hard fighting out there between, I believe we were with Jeff Schnackle there and Neil Kemp, Ron Wolf. Jeff Schnackle being just attacked by that group of cars the last lap by there. It looks like he's kind of been able to satiate that for a little bit now. But a big train of cars behind him. He looks like a bit of a plug in the train of cars here. We're seeing actually, I believe it's Matt Thompson there, the leader of Challenger, is catching up to the back of this pack now. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, see how this plays out. But lots of packs of driving out there still back here in 30th as well. Lots of fighting going on.
Oh, and speaking of that, there is an inside look into the final corner out of the pit straight, and that is rolling the dice there, unless I had that completely wrong. No, that was turn one, paddock hill bend at the other end of the pit straight, and very, very risky place to press. But these drivers showing how it's done, and we keep talking about that, Josh, in terms of it being P30. But if you look at the AM class, that is for the podium. Cossack, who we're riding with right now, running in P3 right now in the amateur group, looking back at Casey and Eichmann, and both of those drivers wanting to displace him and get up onto that podium. So, it may be P30, but it is P3 for some of these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I have to correct you on that, and we could have it wrong here, but it is actually Joe Cichetti, sorry, who is in first, way up in 17th in AM. So that would be Scott Brooks in third, Colin E. Olson, and Andy Cossack in third. So this is the fight potentially ahead of him as we see. I believe that was John Casey losing it in the background. That move, though, that Andy Cossack put up the inside. I'm gonna have a quick look at it again here. He just sort of undercut and got underneath, almost took a look underneath here, and then just decided to squeak one up the inside just before our least favorite corner, at least my least favorite corner. And Andy Cossack actually coming to us from XSLR, which is another show that we put on here on SMB. So you can see him racing the multi-league, different machinery every week. I believe we're on to the F3 cars now, so I might even be joining up for some of those on Sundays if I have the time in the next bit. So Andy Cossack out there getting some stuff done from XSLR over in AMS. So cool to see the crossover.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is one of the joys of working a lot of these leagues is these drivers jumping from platform to platform. And honestly, one thing that I've discovered in my own iRacing career is that you tend to just want to grind and grind and grind on the Cup car, grind and grind on the GT3, and look for those thousandths of a second as we see. My goodness, who was that? That must have been Dan Ott, who is already. We've seen him overtaxing those tires already. And Dan, take a breath, brother. You got 25 minutes remaining, and you're not going to be able to drift the night away. Oh, my goodness.
What a
commentator's
save.
curse there. And ought to take a breather, or he is going to be in the barrier before too much longer. And I know why he's pushing it. He's got Gazenda all over him like the plastic on Grandma's couch. And it's only going to be a matter of time until Gazenda pushes Ott into an error. And there it is right there. Gazenda able to take that tight line onto the pit straight. He's going to have the inside line into turn one. Ott still pushing it here, though. Dangerous place to trail brake on the outside in that Mustang. The rear tires already screaming. And Gazenda still trying to push it through. Looks like he may get it done here in the hairpin. And he does finally, but what a war back there for P21.
He's going to fight back again. So Dan Ott fighting back again. Wow, you can see, like you were using, I believe the trim you used last time was wallowing around on the brakes, and that's perfect. It's exactly what they do. And you can see him there, some gunfighter hands from him as well. They're saving the car twice out in front of Gazenda there, and I believe it's Mike Nickham just behind them from D Nut Stuff, having a real good theater view here of what's going on in front of him. Pretty cool stuff there from the Budweiser car of Dan Ott being able to keep that on the road. And also, the showing restraint here as well from Matthew Gazenda, not to just stab one up the inside and cause an incident when something like that happens. Let the guy sort it out and live to fight another day instead of maybe jamming a car up the inside of a car that's already losing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we saw last week at Imola is when these Mustangs are in full wallow mode, I'll call it, just the lightest tap is enough to get them turned, and they kind of turn in slow motion. And if that happens near you, it's certainly within the realm of possibility that they're going to take you right along with them. But my goodness, these cars definitely very unique here as we see them carving those lines through the British countryside here at Brands Hatch. But almost halfway down now. We got Parrish from Barrios from Ballant still up front. Parrish is starting to stretch that interval a little bit, and maybe Barrios learning something from last week and getting away from the action. There's Sancinelli making something happen there. That is around that Druids hairpin. There we go through Graham Hill Bend using the outside of the track. And here's my favorite corner, Surtees. And oh my goodness, Surtees. I'm just now getting
this guy,
like the Arthurian potential reference there. Surtees, like he's teasing you that you might not mess it up this time, but of course he will. But
probably
anyway,
will. Yep.
Back to you, Josh.
Especially in one of these, I'm just actually noticing here. The livery on this car, the Chiba Hut livery here is just amazing. He's got the toasted sub there with the parrot on the side. That's a new livery from Ed Sancinelli, I would imagine. And I can see the logo there. That's a TW3 paint. And one of our partners here at at Slow Motion Broadcasting, making some beautiful paints out there. And these are the two admins of the series. The STP car and this car we're on right now are fighting each other tooth and nail. So these guys, putting all the hard work in the background to put this series on and make sure it gets funded and we can get out there and have a good time lining up all the sessions. A lot more work than it looks like. So we got to thank Mike Nickham and Ed Sanchinelli here for doing that work. And they're out there battling each other. So it couldn't be better, honestly. Admin of a series, get to race in it and battle each other too. But let's hope they don't get into each other because we don't want any infighting between the admins.
Yeah, because how do you get that sorted out, and who's paying the stewards, I guess would be the next question. Yeah, but that...
Oh, boy.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that Chiba Hut parrot, I mean... if I was his dad, I would be looking pretty closely at those eyes. He looks, I don't know, he's got kind of a faraway expression on his face as he's handling that toasted sub from the Chiba Hut. But anyway, where was I? Anyway, I talked about Parrish, Barrios, and Blount. We also got Matt Thompson, Mark Cohn, and Levi Powell running, not exactly together, but they're certainly in a row there on the timing tower. That is your podium here at the halfway point in the challenge class. And scrolling down, Josh, you mentioned Sicchetti has kind of driven away here. He is 30 seconds up on Scott Brooks, who is
he is AM too. Sorry to interrupt there. We can see it on the side of his car there. So something we didn't mention earlier, actually, JR, that I probably didn't mention to you either, is that they are actually labeled on the car. So if you look at the wing there, they're supposed to have a green wing for Pro, the red wing for AM on the side there, and the blue wing for Challenger. So he is in AM, and he is sailing away. You can get back to it there. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just touching on the podium, and Sicchetti has got about a 30-second gap over P2 and AM. That's Scott Brooks and Colin Olson still right with Brooks in that battle for P27, which is a battle for P2 in AM. And that is your podium report for the halfway point. And cars starting to spread out a little bit, Josh, but not as much as you might have thought. Got a bunch of cars still running together out here, and some great competition from AMS.
Yeah, always some great competition here at American Muscle Series for sure. It's been my second or third season with them now, I believe, doing the production. Always love to do it. You know, the hardest thing about doing production for a series like this is that I can't drive in it too. I would really like to be out there driving, and maybe one of these seasons I will make it out there, but I'm not exactly sure where I would fall into the mix here. I don't think I'd quite be in Pro yet, maybe not even in Challenger yet. These cars are pretty difficult, but I would love the chance to do it at some point here, because I believe now we're looking at Levi Powell, third place in Challenger at the moment, holding position pretty well. Fabian Zweier up the road just a little bit from him, so he's got a pretty good gap between him and Zweier right now. If I was him, I'd kind of be trying to maintain this, try to keep the car behind me. That's behind me in Challenger of Mark Cohn, who's pretty much right on his butt here. So a bit of a race still as well in Challenger for the podium positions. See if we can't check back in up front here, where it actually looks like Taylor Ballant now under attack, but Matt Malone's going to make it happen.
Wow, and
very smooth.
Malone picking his way up through the field, and Matt has definitely developed racecraft over the years. I know that a lot of people are familiar with him. We've been watching him as well, and that move is going to put Malone up. Let me double check my numbers here. Yeah, he is up 6 now, and he is the highest mover all the way down to P27, matching Scott Brooks, who's up 6. But Malone has achieved a podium position after qualifying in P9. So Malone putting down some laps, and notably right behind Matt Malone, the car who he just passed, Ballant, has turned in the fast lap 137.6. So he's just a hair quicker than Jose Barrios, the second fastest man on the track currently.
Yeah, Taylor Ballant has some speed. We've been watching him for a couple seasons now as well. Always up front. Matt Malone going to take a big slide there and catch it pretty much perfectly. I don't even think he lost any time there. That was a pretty good rally move there from Matt Malone. You're doing that, quite a bit in these cars. I bet you if we went on board with any one of these drivers in 10 laps, you're probably doing that, more often than not. I would think you're sliding around and trying to find grip in these things. But yeah, lots of speed out there from Taylor Ballant. Matt Malone really showing how it's done around here, that racecraft, you're right, being able to get by some drivers very clean and fast as well. Not easy to pass around here necessarily, but he's been able to make it work in a few different places, which is always the sign of a driver who's kind of got it put together there racecraft wise. So pretty impressive stuff. We'll see if he can't make a dent in Jose Barrios and Kevin Parrish here. If they decide to fight too hard, it could be done. It's not out of the question, but he's got enough time to get it done, actually. There's still a lot of time left here, so anything can still happen here with the kind of pace Matt Malone's showing, and maybe he can even bring Taylor Ballant with him.
Yeah, too, right? And not to unleash curse here early with 15 minutes remaining. There is a fuel stop that's going to be required before this one is over, and it's a ripe ripe field of potential errors during that pit sequence. As we said, pretty easy to get a penalty on entry here, and all kinds of things can go wrong in the pit stop itself. So that could definitely result in a shakeup. And I'll tell you what, it's one thing that folks may not appreciate about these cars. They're looking pretty smooth right now, and from this interior shot here, you can see Barrios, a little bit of hand movement there. But these cars will teach you about opposite lock. You have got to have quick hands to catch these things when that 3,000 plus pounds starts rotating. If you don't make a quick correction, things can get out of hand in an absolute hurry. And it kind of reminds me of the first time I saw an in-car of a NASCAR going around Road Atlanta. It made me kind of understand and appreciate the car control that those guys have. It's easy to make fun of them for only turning left, but driving a car like this with a live axle, you definitely have to have very, very fast reflexes, very quick on the opposite lock to keep these things on the road if you're running at the pointy end of the field.
Yeah, for sure. You're balancing out there, dancing on the pedals and the steering wheel, I think, at all times out there, looking for grip, finding grip under braking, finding grip under acceleration, finding grip mid-corner. It's not easy. You can see the body roll too. They dive pretty hard on the brakes, and they kind of body roll around a little bit. And honestly, I find that really fun. I actually really enjoy these. You sort of have to think about your moves a little bit. I'm used on the weekend. Oh, as we have Neil Kemp in the wall here. Not sure what happened to the 99. He's going to back up out of the wall. Looks like he's in a fairly safe position here. He's being very, very smart about it here, making sure he doesn't hurt anybody else. We'll have a quick look here. It looks like we may have... Now, see, it's always, where do I click on here? Did it start maybe right here? Let's have a quick peek. Looks like it might be between him and Jeff Schnackle, so there was a fight going on, JR.
Yeah, and let's see whether or not he had help.
A bad shot.
I don't know if there's any contact there or not. Just a little over-rotation at one of the many very difficult kind of off-camber corners here. Here's an overhead view, and boy, very tough. If there was contact, that was net code. That's that Surtees corner I talked about. Very easy to overcook the entry there and get on the throttle too soon as well. So many traps on that corner, and whatever the cause, you saw that little over rotation, that Mustang nose first into the barrier, and that is a bummer. And is that a move by Ron Wolf on Dwyer there? If it was a hell of a move. You don't see a lot of attempts right there into turn one, but some very good driving by both of those drivers.
Yeah, he was having a look there. Wolf was having a look at Schnackle, and I think he kind of thought better of it almost too late. Yeah, he had a bit of a look outside, and then he kind of looked back in and then peeked back out again. Looked as a bit of an indecisive whether he was actually going to send it or not, and almost got into the back of Schnackle there, I think, but was able not to. So he's going to live to play another day. But yeah, that looked like a pretty much a racing incident there. As he was trying to go up the inside. We call it the iRacing glue a little bit. Sometimes if you get a little close, the cars start to act a little strange. I think they did kind of door each other a little, but yeah, we'll just leave that up to, I think anyway, it's probably a racing incident, but we'll leave that up to the stewards to figure out. Back with Freddie Weaver here side by side, I believe, with Joe Cacchetti in that AM class, and they're going to probably sort this one out. I think if I was Joe, I would let Freddie go. I'm leading my class right now. There's no point in fighting that one too hard. See if he's got the pace, maybe catch up to him, try another pass later, but we will try to get to some more replays here, maybe even of what happened in the beginning to a couple people here. I know that's a little bit farther back now, but it has kind of calmed down a little as I say that. We're looking at Gabaldon here just fighting with Dan Ott again. Dan Ott has had quite the race out there in the Budweiser car.
Yeah, he really has, and he really had something going early, and we saw that big off coming onto the pit straight, lost what looked like could have been almost 10 positions, and whoa! Here's
This is at
a
the
replay.
beginning.
Yeah, that is a replay at the beginning. That is that Graham Hill bend down the hill there, and very easy to get loose right there, particularly on cold tires, Josh.
Yeah, especially right at the beginning here when you're trying to sort yourself out. And, it's so easy right there. We see just kind of got into the door a little bit of the Black Talon 218 there. And unfortunately, he's going to spin. And then, just nowhere for a couple other drivers to go. So pretty easy to happen at the beginning of the race. When you're starting kind of mid-pack, back of the pack too, it's difficult. It's difficult to know. You want to gain positions, but you don't want to, trip over anybody or knock anybody out, and it can be a balance between the two. It's a bit of a push-pull there. Have another quick look at it there, and yeah, the car of Dave Blair here doing the right thing and locking it down, just waiting for it to happen in front of him. Always hurts a little bit, but it's better not to lose the front clip of your car.
Yeah, absolutely. And pro tip, kids, when you see that yellow flag, that doesn't mean punch it and take advantage of the opportunity.
Are you sure?
It means to avoid and be responsible, as you saw it right there. That was
definitely
a reaction you more likely see on the real track, frankly, than see in iRacing, where there's not physical pain at stake, but some very, very good and respectful driving there. And I got to say, that has got to be the most common reckless maneuvers that we see out here, particularly in public servers. When the yellow flies, people see it as an opportunity to floor it and try to stuff it through the wreckage, and that just kind of adds to the river of tears that come from some of those big incidents, in my experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Avoidance is a really big part of racing. Something they don't tell you when you first start racing is that there's other drivers out there who are going to make mistakes, and you have to avoid them. And if you go out and and I'm not saying anybody here does, but it does, in the officials, and I'm sure we've all been part of it, where, there's people out there who just don't want to take responsibility for anything. And I learned, once I started taking responsibility, even for those incidents that were not my fault, and, somebody who hits me from the back, and I should have been looking, maybe I could have seen it coming, maybe I could have got out of the way. It's my job to protect the equipment, not the other way around. You're going to meet people who race hard or don't race well, and that's part of racing. You have to learn to avoid them. As we got a black flag for Jeff Schnackel, I think that's probably going to be incident points, JR. He has been racing very hard with many drivers and trying to hold them off here for a long time, and it looks like it may have boiled over into a black flag for the 23.
Wow, that is crazy, and we don't have real access to incident points. We've got like the best guess of our software, which is usually pretty wrong, but yeah, those off tracks can add up here at Brands Hatch. We mentioned it before. You're always flirting with the track boundaries. Track boundaries a little vague, to put it mildly, in a few spots. And Schnackel going to be schnacking on a penalty right now. And maybe one of those Chiba Hut toasted subs to ease the pain of that.
Ease
but
the pain, yeah.
really had something going there.
Bummer.
And man, oh man, you hate to have something like that happen there. You can Schnackel coming out of the pits now after that penalty, dropping all the way to P12. That's going to be a net loss of 6 for him from his qualifying position, and he had improved on that during the course of this one. And to double the pain, we got to be getting really close to that pit sequence, Josh. And I mean, I guess he could take it as a free practice run through that pit entry, but that Schnackel not happy about that. And here is a move Fench on Levi Powell there, and my goodness, so much more action there on the entry as you see Powell wiggling there. So much more action on the entry to Surtees there than I was expecting, because like I said, it's one of those spots with such high precision, and going through there side by side absolutely kills your speed, kills this important run up Hawthorne Hill. But to hell that people are making it happen there, and we've seen that there repeatedly.
Well, as we see, I believe, was that that's Fabian's wire, so I believe that it might be a lap car getting out of the way there. But we're definitely seeing those tires starting to warm up a little bit, aren't we? 34 minutes. Got to have that pit stop pretty soon. I believe it is a mandatory stop, so whether they have to stop or not, I think that you know what? It might not be mandatory. There could be some fuel saving out there, but I don't think they put enough fuel in to make it to the end. So they're going to have to take a pit here. We're going to see how that works out. Taylor Ballant looking up the inside, putting the pressure on Matt Malone here, see if he can make him crack. And he's not just gonna give it up, at least anyway, holding on the outside, and then he's gonna kind of relinquish that one mid-corner, see if he can't get up the inside. This is a really difficult spot. That happens almost every time you try to make a pass through that corner. You're gonna get doubled back on through here, and then you're kind of gonna get hung out to dry because you're on the outside of the next two. But every once in a while, that's just sort of a push square for intimidation moment. You're just kind of trying to show your opponent that you're still there.
Yeah, absolutely, and showing that you have the car control and you have the willingness not to just let them get away, make them work for it there. But it looks like Ballant is going to be able to make this one happen. He's going to have the inside, couple of right-handers in a row here as you see Malone going wide into the grass. That probably an off, and you see just a little kiss right
millimeters
there by Malone. And a little bump drafting there, maybe, but definitely some contact and some fantastic racing. Great car control between these two going on right now.
Yeah, that was actually, you couldn't get a sheet of paper between the two of them there for about a full 12 seconds. That was a pretty good one. It looks like Jeff Schnackle again with a black flag. I'm not sure that's going to be an entry or an exit penalty or something perhaps on pit lane, but getting worse on that one. So unfortunately here, hopefully they can clear this lap traffic. But yeah, some awesome driving here from Taylor Ballant, who is known for his sort of mid-race to end race fitness here, and able to kind of come back mid-race with some speed. So he might have just been kind of holding on to it a bit there, JR, and let Matt Malone go out and eat some fresh air up for a little bit and sit behind him. And now he's going to make his pounce here before pit. Or before the end of the race. Matt Malone going up the inside again, same spot.
And what a move right there.
Wow.
And, you saw Malone kind of waiting and saving his tires right there. Absolutely smoking the rears on that pass and drifting all the way through that. You can't do that every corner. You can't do it lap after lap. But when you need to, you can save it up and make it work for you. You saw Malone make that happen right there, getting back into P3. Here's some more side-by-side action. That's Cone and Fench side-by-side through Surtees. And man, Josh, I never would have thought that there would be so much action right there. I'm a broken record on that, but absolutely mind-blowing. That does not happen in open wheel or GT3 that I've been in, but that is Cone from Fench, from Powell, and all three of those cars covered by about 4/10. And here is Powell, and he was getting ready to pounce there as Fench and Cone scrapping, and Cone, of course, trying to bounce back from a nightmare a couple races at Imola. So Cone looking good right now in P2, but that could easily go right out the window here with all that close racing down the stretch with worn out tires. And Josh, I'm beginning to wonder if we are misinformed about this pit stop. Only 2 minutes remaining here and no sign of anybody ducking in. And if they did, it would just be a splash and dash. And if it were just a splash and dash, I think we would have seen some people trying undercuts earlier, some of these guys that had incidents. So this may not be a pit stop race here after all, as we've only got about a minute and 45 remaining. This could be the penultimate lap right here, depending on where the leaders are on track, as we're taking a look at Malone trying to make something happen here against Barrios.
Yeah, so we definitely, I think you're right. I think maybe we missed, I think perhaps we've been misinformed, or maybe there just isn't fuel on this one, or the session had too much fuel loaded into it or something, but it doesn't look like anybody. I think we've seen at least somebody in the 38 car field would have pulled in for a pit stop by now if they had to. So it looks like it's going to be straight to the flag, which has been pretty good, to be honest, just to get a charge without having that pit stop in the middle of the race to kind of mess things up for you a little bit. I kind of like pit stops personally because they can kind of shake things up a little, and we've seen some pretty interesting stuff in the pit here, and it looks like they are going to be kind of racing for time here. I think they are going to get one more lap in at least. This shouldn't be the very last one, but this will, I believe, be the white flag lap for Kevin Parrish and Barrios. So he's going to make something happen. He needs to make it happen right about now. And Matt Malone, Taylor Ballant also behind there, still fighting for position as well. A couple more little battles out there, but the classes, Matt Thompson and Fischetti there, I believe, are pretty sorted for the end of the race here.
Yeah, they do. It looks like Powell is right with Cone there. So we have a couple, it seems like some of these cars are pairing off here. Last time around this 2.5 mile short course here at Brands, and see if anything is going to happen here. And Barrios, that 0.6, 0.7 is a lot to make up here in a short lap, especially on tired tires. So some of these drivers might just kind of be taking a breath, glad that it's almost over, and protecting the positions that they currently have. It doesn't look like much attacking is going on from the timing tower. Belant may be reeling in Malone a little here. But as we watch Parrish hit the backside of the course here for the last time, and coming down Dingle Dell there. That's gotta be careful how you pronounce that one, through Sterling's, and
it's a few of those British ones you got to be careful for sure. At a couple of these tracks, I'm like, whoa, that was
so
a
many
close
of
one.
them, and Knickerbrook from Moulton Park springs to mind as well. But
you want to be careful with that one.
Here comes Parrish over that difficult. It's so much harder than it looks. It's you almost wouldn't believe it. But anyway, here comes Parrish across the line. That is his third race in a row, having won twice at Imola. It's Parrish from Barrios. Malone
Finch gonna spin. We'll go back and check that out.
And there is a spin from Finch. That is Finch spinning out of the top 10, likely currently sitting in P12. After that little error, Malone will hang on for P3. So that is his second podium for Malone. Barrios actually putting a race together here after struggling at Imola. See this little cluster coming through. That's Cone from Powell from Fernandez, and a photo finish. And it looks like Thompson might have, or I'm sorry. I thought
Thompson
Powell might have squeaked through there at the end.
Very
close.
Looks
like showing 84 thousandths of a gap right there for your final. That's 2 versus 3 of our Challenger class. And it looks like Cacchetti has come across to take the P1 in amateur. And we got a few more cars coming across here, taking a look at Colin Olson. That is P2 in the AM class, and he's got bringing Brooks and Kosick along behind him. So it looks like it's going to be Olson in P2, Brooks in P3 for your amateur class. But another fantastic night of racing here in AMS as we watch the rest of this massive 38-car field come through. And taking a look at the timing tower, 30, Josh, of those 38 cars on the lead lap. And I would not have bet money on that. That just goes to the quality of racing and quality of competition in this group.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a battle back here as well. Colin E. Olson able to hold out for that second place between Scott Brooks and Andy Kosick, fighting there and fighting for a good portion of the race, and didn't finish too far away from each other either. So all kinds of action all over the track there. Pretty hard to keep up with, honestly, as a producer here, to try to be everywhere at once. It makes me wish I had a second set of arms and about 20 more cameras, and I would be able to show everything, and maybe even a couple of counts so I could picture in picture, and even then we'd be missing some out there. So there's a lot going on. Matt Malone as well with a great push up through the field here. Some pretty amazing passes from Matt Malone, the full-time turkey, and the part-timers here. Number 83, able to just kind of scythe through the pack there and show us how it's done around Brands Hatch for sure. Kevin Parrish not putting a foot wrong down there up there in first place, and same thing with Jose Barrios, showing some real pace and consistency today.
Yeah, and a tip of the hat to Barrios. As I said, he was flogging the hell out of that thing in Imola last week, flogging it a little too hard, cost him at a couple offs, and cost him probably a podium position that would have befitted his pace there, and managed to drive error-free here at Brands Hatch, put quite a bit of pressure on Parrish throughout that one. Couldn't get that pass done into P1, but did keep it on the podium, and he'll finish in P2. So very good drive, really, by everybody out here. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very green at calling these AMS races, but so far you can color me impressed by the quality of the competition and the quality of driving out here. All right, and speaking of good driving, let's go ahead and bring in Kevin Parrish, and another fantastic drive. Kevin, you had some pressure from behind on this one from Barrios. Very good gap management by you. He never really could get close enough to even put a nose in, and your third victory in a row here in this season of AMS. So what'd you think of Brands Hatch today?
Oh yeah, I love Brands Hatch. Good old school track. There's a lot of consequences on tracks like this, and I love that. Jose definitely kept me honest today. I had a little bit of a fuel management that I needed to do, so you saw the gap kind of yo-yoing back and forth. But yeah, he kept the pressure on, kept me honest, made sure I wasn't making any big mistakes.
And you know what? Since you mentioned it, why don't you talk to us about fuel? I somehow had it in my pea brain that this was going to be a pit stop race. Didn't see anybody taking fuel. So did they load up the fuel just right so that if you saved, you would make it?
Yeah, you had the option of running like 1 gallon over or feathering it here and there. So yeah, I ran light and made it work. And it was interesting not having a pit stop tonight compared to our usual.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Some great competition out there. I'm somebody who tends to not qualify well, so I like pit stops just to save my race through the undercut. But yeah, really fantastic race. And looking forward, looks like we're heading to Mosport next week. Kind of similar in my mind to Brands Hatch in many ways. The undulating hills, blind corners, some difficult camber. So what are your thoughts about running these Mustangs in Canada next week?
Sounds like we'll be doing some pack racing. I look forward to it.
All right, fantastic. Well, congratulations, Kevin, again on a great race. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Shout out to my son. He started crying those last couple laps. My wife's taking care of him now. So shout out to Logan.
All right, Logan, hang in there. I'm going to let your daddy go. And Kevin, we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Let's keep it rolling.
All right, thank you. All right, that was Kevin Parrish, your overall winner and winner in the pro class. And it looks like, let's see, we got Matt Thompson, our winner in the Challenger class. Matt, great drive today. You had some pressure here and there, but well, I mean, we're only 2 races in, but you have shown some great consistency, good gap management, and very strong start to your season. So what are your impressions of driving in the rolling hills in the UK here at Brands Hatch?
Oh, this is one of my favorite tracks of all time. I put so many hours in this track. In the old GT500 and Gran Turismo. I have thousands of laps at this track from that. So I've always loved it. Got to find the places to cut the corners just enough, not too much, and work the setup to get the balance where I wanted it, and kept the tires on it, and was running quick laps at the end. So that was what we did today.
Yeah, well, very well done. And we talked about that a little bit in the lead up. Brands Hatch definitely one of those tracks that rewards seat time and frankly punishes lack of seat time because there's so many nuances and track limits and some precision driving. So looked like pretty even driving by most of the field. I was expecting more people to have problems with tires out there. So how is the car feeling down the stretch?
With the setup that I and a lot of the Freedom Sport guys were running, it was feeling great at the end. In practice, I mashed my fastest lap on the last lap of a 10 gallon run. So the tires were holding up well for us. I think some people might have had a few issues with it towards the end, but what we had was working.
All right, interesting. Well, the time in the setup shop obviously paying off. Looking at Brands Hatch, I really thought that rears were going to be going off down the stretch here after 40 minutes, but the whole field really seemed to do a pretty good job keeping it on the track. So it was excellent racing today, and great racing by you. Congratulations on that P1. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Oh, big shout out to Ed and the Frito Sport crew. You guys for putting on the broadcast. Thank you.
All right. It is our pleasure. Thanks for stopping by and sharing your thoughts about Brands.
All right.
All All right, Josh, I for a moment, I was in the universe by myself, and I forgot you were here. How would you like to chat with Joe Sacchetti here really quickly?
Yeah, sure. Let's jump him in here.
All right, we got him.
Joe, that was a great win in AM. Not an easy one out there today with so much traffic, super tight course as well. How was it out there for you today?
Hey guys, yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was tough for sure. Really happy with how I made out. We're getting there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving up through the field for sure. So you're pretty much, like class of the field here in AM. Did you do a lot of practice this week around Brands Hatch, or is this place just kind of mesh with you in the car?
I tend to have all right luck here. I got to thank the guys at Frito Sport for helping with setups and stuff. I mean, obviously that's a big part of it. Did a little bit of practice, probably not as much as I should have, but yeah, it felt pretty good.
Excellent. Well, next week we're headed, I believe, to Mosport out in Canada. Not a dissimilar track to here, not quite as much undulation and so on, but narrow, fast sports car track they probably wouldn't build. Is that one you're used to there? You like that one or not so much?
Getting used to it, so I don't have a choice, right? So I'm going to put some practice in and hopefully have a similar result as we did tonight,
Right on. Yep, that's the way you want to look at it for sure. Well, great results out there tonight. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
To thank my buddies that are watching and the guys over at Frito Sport. And you guys, because you do a great job.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for the kind words, man. And we'll keep an eye on you for next race there. Keep it going.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
And that was your AM winner, Joe Sacchetti. And yeah, he definitely had something cooking. He won that one by about 30 seconds. So, folks, we are not just about these fantastic Mustangs here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And as you're sitting there, I want you to go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification icon so that you don't miss any of the action tomorrow night. You can join yours truly for Formula 3 at Suzuka. Saturday, we'll have Weekend Warriors at Phillip Island. Sunday, XSLR will feature GT3s at Road Atlanta. And 1 week from tonight, join Andre and I for the next round of AMS from Ontario, Canada. So I am JR Gregory on behalf of myself, my partner and producer, Joshua Wilkie, and everyone here at SMB. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and we'll see you back here real soon.